What's up guys, it's T-Tar, and today we're talking about the 19th Pokemon type. Now I know what you're thinking, T-Tar, there's no way they're introducing a 19th type in Pokemon, but listen, this is what you're thinking right now. Watch how you'll feel at the end of the video. The last type introduced was Fairy, that's the 18th type. I'm talking about the 19th. Now, when it comes to introducing a new type, the big problem is that it disrupts the system. You gotta learn all these new weaknesses, a bunch of Pokemon get retyped, it's a hassle, and Game Freak has it figured out right now where these 18 types just work. There will never be no rubber type, no lava type that'll go to older Pokemon like Slugma and change the game again. With Tropius, in fact, unless there's a major retcon, it solidifies that there will only ever be 18 types in Pokemon. You can see him on his back. Except, maybe not. See, on the podcast, we talked about the idea of introducing a new type. And the moment the words came out of our mouths, we realized this idea was going to happen. Either in this generation or a future Pokemon generation, Pokemon is going to introduce a 19th type, maybe a 20th type, and continue to go on. I know it sounds crazy, right? So let me explain. Tropius. When guessing Tropius' type, water is one I really like, but I don't think Tropius is gonna be one of the 18 types. He can control them all, which could make him a water type simply able to wield all of them as a byproduct of his power, or all 18 types are his main power and his. Which puts us at the first possibility, which is that Tropius is a normal type. Normal is looked at as its own type sometimes, but in truth, it's the basic type, at least in my opinion, which is why when it was made, it was never super effective against anything. It was like the mortal type among the others like fire, water, and grass. But as the gens went on, normal started to be treated not just as basic, but as its own type, its own element almost, which is why moves like Roost, Double Shock, or for example Burn Up, when used on a pure fire type, doesn't turn it normal, but turns it into something else, which is thought exercise 2, that Tropius is a typeless type. That's what the moves earlier turn you into. It is a typing that already exists in the game, and it's the identity of the infamous move Struggle. Now, it's not the typing of Struggle. Struggle is still a normal type, but it deals typeless damage. It's even able to hit ghost types and hits Wonder Guard Pokemon. By using those 3 moves I described, the typeless type itself still exists. It makes you resistant to nothing and weak to nothing, and you also gain stab in nothing. It's an extremely rare type that even color change won't pick up on it, but there are some ways to trigger it, like Revelation Dance on Oricorio. If you aim at a typeless Pokemon, Oricorio becomes typeless. It's interesting that Pokemon programmed this in, and this has become the new basic type after normal was treated more as an element. So this idea I'm telling you is that imagine if you look at Tropius' Pokedex entry and it's listed typeless, perhaps exactly like that. A new box that says typeless. It has no weaknesses, no strengths, but simply an ability that lets it gain stab on every typing or something. And that's a solid idea. Over the weeks as I try to think of what Tropius could be, that's the first solid idea that makes sense. That he's typeless. And to stretch to thought idea 3, it may even be overlapped with the legendary question mark type. A typing that formerly belonged to Curse because the move was so unusual. It's not a typing you could ever become though, and even if you use moves like Conversion, which turned you into a move's typing, it would fail if you targeted Curse. But there's one Pokemon that secretly had the question mark typing, Arceus. For some reason, Game Freak programmed a special variant of Arceus if you ever managed to get the question mark type. This is what it looks like. It was never meant to be anything deep in my opinion, but it's become a typing Game Freak is acquainted with, even if it's behind the scenes stuff. That could be merged with the typeless type and turned into Tropius' type, turning the question mark type into an official one finally. So that's the first answer to Tropius, and it's a solid answer. It could totally happen that Tropius is the question mark type. But now I'm going to tell you the fourth and final hypothesis, that Game Freak is going to add a 19th type. One that we've never seen before. So let's explain. Now, as I said earlier, Game Freak does not want to bother adding new types. They found a solid ground where generally all the typings are balanced. But what I'm saying is when they introduce this type, not that older Pokemon would be retyped to this, no. It will not be obtainable at all. It is what I'd call a legendary type. A typing given to one single Pokemon, Tropius of Gen 9. And a pattern they can cleverly continue to Gen 10's main legendary, and so on. a secret way to make these Pokemon seem even more mysterious and above the others. An actual legendary type. It's clicking in for you, I know it is. So, Terrapagus would be something I'd call the Terra type, or to avoid confusion, let's say the Crystal type. A rare type only it would have, and it would make it its own boss battle, new rules to learn. It wouldn't annoy fans into making them relearn everything, relearn Wi-Fi battles, and relearn changed moves typings. No, only Terrapagus would have this. And because it's a legendary type, it has no reason to be balanced. It could be resistant to the majority of types. Terrapagus could get 1 or 2 crystal moves that are super effective to like half the typings, like the 8 elemental typings that make up the evolutions. It could be a whole difficult boss like Volo's Giratina that ends the DLC with a bang. Essentially, the Eternamax Eternatus fight, except giving it the difficulty it deserved. So, now after conjuring this idea in your heads, now think back to say Ultra Necrozma. It seems a bit simple that this typing is the same Psychic and Dragon we know. Imagine if what I'm theorizing Game Freak is up to, if Necrozma was made in 2023, that it was the Light type, or a Light Dragon type, and it was extremely overpowered. Because it can be. It's gonna be banned from VGC, from competitive play. It's simply what a final boss is meant to be. A 4-way raid battle with you, Penny, Nimona, and Arven against Terraform, Giant Terrapagus Crystal typed sounds exactly like how the game should end. Then you'd realize the crystals you find throughout Area Zero are not just fragments of Terrapagus's power, but fragments of that crystal type. The crystal type would almost be synonymous with Terrapagus, since he only gets it. Trust me, you probably had the bra face starting this video, but now you're having the same revolution we did when we first talked about this. It probably sounds perfect to you too now. When we first came up with this around January, I was showing him pictures of Heat's drawing, and we joked that he would get a new typing. And the moment the DLC was announced, and we saw all 18 types on Terrapagus's back, it literally felt like it was happening. Especially with Terrapagus having all 18 on its back, it almost separates him from those 18. Those lowly peasant types. It can wield those easily, but what it really is a new one. And it also allows Terrapagus or the school to display those as the 18 types, because those are still the real types. What I'm suggesting is Game Freak will introduce a new type category, legendary types, and it'll start with Terrapagus as the crystal type, the Gen 10 legendary being its own new type, and continuing onward. It's happening, man. And the doors this opens is wild. So long as it remains a typing you only have to learn because one Pokemon will have it, it's awesome. Fans will never complain. In fact, I've been waiting for this moment, Masuda. It means Arceus. The day they decide to reveal what's up with him, he's gonna be some divine type too. I guess he's resistant to everything. It's just gonna happen. His legend plate is just gonna be a super watered down version of what he really is. Alright, well, I got a couple other Scarlet and Violet theories, so shank that like button if you like this idea, subscribe, and I'll make those videos too. And have fun Twitter with this one. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.